Good evening. This is Dr. Mark Andrew Holacek, and welcome to another episode of Via Ukraine. Um, Today, I want to talk about some of Trump's comments. We held a press conference at his vacation residence in Mar-a-Lago in Florida. And once again, he said another batch of incomprehensible things about the Ukrainian war that did more to turn all of his friends against him. If you haven't heard by now, his comments of making Canada the 51st state infuriated the Canadians. And the president expressed his views on that the other day. The Mexican president expressed anger about about Trump wanting to call the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America. All of the NATO countries have turned against him since the meeting in Munich, and he couldn't do more to infuriate people. He's using as president a sort of swamping strategy where he's trying to sign in the law and do so many different things each day that any opposition is sort of handcuffed, as it were, by the many stupid laws he's trying to sign and build, the many constitutional practices he violates on a daily basis. Elon Musk, both working for the government and working as a private citizen, is one instance of that. If we turn to his thoughts on Ukraine the other day, let's just read some of them and let me have a commentary on them. He says, I've heard that about Ukraine, they're upset about not having a seat, talking about in Saudi at the meeting between the Americans and the Russians. They're upset about not having a seat. Well, they've had a seat for 3 years and a long time before that. Could have been settled very easily. What does this even mean? They've had a seat for a long time before that, at the time. So is the war itself a sort of seat? Right? This could have been settled very easily. What does that mean? Everything is so easy. He's going to do it in one day. Never happened. So easy, isn't it? The whole situation is that there's a history of the peoples, of the Ukrainians and the Russians, that takes us back to the 17th century. Trump knows nothing about that history. He knows nothing about the pacts in the 17th century between Poland and Russia. He doesn't talk about any of the Ukrainophobia expressed in the 19th century, when there was a Ukrainian nationalist movement, and there was the value of proclamation put forth in the end and so forth. There's a whole history between Ukrainians and Russia. Ukrainians in some sense fighting for liberty, fighting for their own opportunity for self-determination, and Russian oppression that led all the way through the USSR and continues today with Putin's aggressive measures in Ukraine. He goes on to say, this could have been settled very easily. Just a half-baked negotiator could have settled this year without the loss of much land, very little land, without the loss of any lives, and without the loss of cities that are just laying on their side. Now, again, very easily. So I guess what happens when the Russian troops arrange themselves by the tens of thousands on the Ukrainian borders in Belarus and northern parts of Ukraine, on northern parts of the Ukrainian border in the east, and are coming in and threatening to destroy the whole of Ukraine. What are you supposed to do, right? Stop. Stop. Let's negotiate. Putin had no desire to negotiate. He wanted to destroy all of Ukraine, which officially, right, since both have their roots, according to Putin, in this half-baked 2021 essay that he pens, that Russians and Ukrainians have the same origin, so they're the same people. They're the same people. Russians can do whatever they want to Ukrainians because they're really wayward Russians that need to be taught a lesson, right? No, any of this? No, he doesn't. He gets his information, as we're going to see, from Vladimir Putin. All Ukraine presumably had to do is just hand over a little bit of land at the time, and the Russians said, okay, we're going to buy it. He has no clue that they wanted to destroy the whole of Ukraine. It wasn't about taking little land. It's about taking all of Ukraine. And then, according to a plan that was unearthed 2023, the goal was by 2030 to go into Belarus. Where they're going to go thereafter, who knows? Putin will probably be dead. But that's at least his plans. He's a very smart, impatient person. When he has a goal, he achieves it usually. And he's very deceptive. He's very sly. He's very determined. Uh, Trump goes on to say, today I heard, and he's in a mocking voice, oh, we weren't invited. And when you watch the transcript, look at Trump's face. There's pure vitriol. He hates Zelensky. Why does he hate Zelensky? This goes all the way back when he's running for president. He asked Zelensky to dig up some dirt on the Bidens, right? Joe Biden's son, and Zelensky thought it appropriate, didn't do it, never liked Zelensky thereafter, didn't play his political con game, political intrigues, right? Watch his face when he speaks, whenever Zelensky's name comes up. Why does he hate him even more? Well, after Vance's speech in Munich, there was an arrangement for Vance to meet with Zelensky to speak about some issues, about where we're going from here. Zelensky, as I mentioned before, was handed a sheet of paper, which he was supposed to sign. And the paper said, okay, you agreed to hand over $500 billion worth of your minerals, of your precious minerals, to the United States prior to going into negotiations. Zelensky was at sixes and sevens. He was nonplussed. He flabbergasted. I'm not going to sign anything, right? We want security guarantees. Okay, we're going to give you the immense line is always, well, the security guarantees is that when you give us the minerals, that'll be a guarantee in itself. We'll be occupied with digging up the minerals. That doesn't say anything. What happens if Russians decide to go back in Ukraine and take more of it? Trump ever expressly say, no, we have your back? Never says that. He doesn't care about Ukraine. He doesn't care about the hundreds of thousands. He talks about millions, hundreds of thousands of lives that have lost. There's probably over 1 million right now, sir. Right? Okay. Then he goes on to say, we weren't invited. And he says that with a smug, satanic face. He continues, well, you've been there for 3 years. You should have ended it 3 years. You should have never started it. He is blaming Ukrainians for starting the war. You could have made a deal. Astonishing. This could come out of the mouth from the devil himself, Vladimir Vladimirovich Putin. Ukraine started the war. Talk about a turn of face. This satanic president that we have, right? And then his followers, his Trumpites, well, America first. We're going to take care of America. How the hell do you have any country first? This is a global network of nations that are linked economically. When something goes wrong somewhere, everybody is influenced. That's just the way the world works today. America firsters, right? Oh, let's just have isolationism. We're going to have all these tariffs, right? I understand the protective tariffs. They're there to protect the American industry, and I understand that. But you're and at a wrong time when there's a war going on and you're pissing off your allies. You haven't a friend left. And I reiterate, I'm ashamed to have this guy as my president, blaming Zelensky. Then he goes on to talk about elections. Let me read. Well, we have a situation where we haven't had elections in Ukraine, where we have martial law, essentially martial law in Ukraine, where the leader in Ukraine, I hate to say it, but he's down at 4% approval rating, and where our country has been blown to smithereens. They want a seat at the table, but wouldn't the people of Ukraine have a say? It's been a long time since we have an election. Requests for Ukrainian elections are not a Russian thing. That's coming from me and many other countries also. See, this is a madman at this point. Where does he get this notion of Zelensky's approval rating is at 4%? Well, he got that from Putin. Go on the internet, you look, it's anywhere from 55 to 58% approval rating. It dipped since the start of the war. Still has a very strong approval rating. So where does he get his information? It doesn't matter, because to the Trumpites, if it comes out of Donald Trump's mouth, It has to be 4%. Why? Because Trump said it. The people in Ukraine do have a say, and they're behind Zelensky fairly strongly, right? They're tired of the war, and you can understand that, right? Okay, why do we need elections? Putin insists on that. He keeps saying Zelensky is illegitimate because he's exceeded his 5 years of his term. But Trump answered it. It's martial law. That happens in most countries under attack. You can't have elections. It's a very unsettling thing. And the having of elections puts you in a precarious situation. Everybody going to the polls. And there's a vulnerability there. You have to trust the person in power. And Zelensky has the backing of the Ukrainian people. Why does he want new elections? Because Putin has argued for that. Putin says Zelensky's illegitimate. Who's fucking illegitimate? Putin has been in office for 25 years, and there's never been a fair election. The first election was bought by terrorist acts, by bombings of buildings that were probably done by Putin himself. He's bombing his own people to come in and presumably rescue them. Don't believe me? Read on the internet. Read several books by people who have argued, talked about this thing. I think he did bomb his own people. The terrorist attacks that he's caused in Chechnya wiped Chechnya off the map in a war that lasted for 10 years, and the Chechen people were evil because they weren't Orthodox Christians, they were Muslims, and they wanted independence. So following Yeltsin, who came in and aerial assault destroyed the Chechens. And he does that all the time with people. This was a similar plan that he had with Georgia in 2008, a similar plan he's using against Ukraine, right? I want your land. I'm going to bomb you to hell and just take it. But that's okay. And, we want elections because elections might bring in the possibility of a pro-Russian president like Yanukovych was when he came to power, and Ukrainians threw him out of office, right? In the Euromaidan. He was thrown out of office. He ran back to Moscow with his tail between his legs. Ukrainian people want to align themselves with NATO. They want representative government. They want liberty. They may very massively ignorant on how to accomplish this, but they need help. NATO is embracing them right now. The United States has abandoned them, right? Trump says this is coming from me, many other countries. What are the other countries? Countries familiar and friendly to Russia. It's coming from him. Trump wants elections. He wants Zelensky out of there because Zelensky didn't sign his warrant, his death warrant, didn't sign the $500 million deal. By the way, okay, he says that he's going to say lost money. He says, I believe President Zelensky said last week he doesn't know where half the money is that we gave him. We gave them, I believe, $350 billion. But let's say it's something less than that. It's $177 billion. But it's a lot. And we have to equalize with Europe because Europe has given us a very much smaller percentage of that. Europe has given more as a unit than 177 billion. We have not given them 350 billion. Of course, this is the logic, and we have Trump's word on it, though. So them 177 billion, he's demanding 500 billion in return, right? And he's got this famous line with irks me to all hell that we got to get something out of this. The previous administration, Biden's administration, he hates Biden. I'm not a big Biden fan. I have friends and family that think that I'm a big Democrat. I'm not a Democrat or Republican. I'm an independent frickin' thinker. I don't need Trump telling me the way things are. I don't have to say Trump said that. That's true. And it's the same with Biden. I can take a particular issue and think it through myself and make my own decision. And that's what a democracy. It should not be partisan, right? And it's dangerous when you've got these Trumpites coming in and say, well, Trump said it, right? America first. Let's repeat these slogans. You know, we hear slogans all the time. Communist, USSR, and you hear it in Russia. They bombard you. They bombarded the Donbass area in southern parts of Ukraine. with slogans and propaganda to brainwash people. Let's repeat after Trump, America first, right? Zelensky is a neo-Nazi. Where does he get any of this from? Zelensky's a freaking Jew. And of course, Trump doesn't like the fact, that Putin doesn't like the fact that Zelensky's Jew. He's said that very cautiously on several occasions, talking about his illegitimacy, also hinting at it comes from him being a Jew. Shouldn't have a Jewish president in Ukraine. So let's say it's something that we have to equalize with Europe because Europe has given us a very large proportion of stuff. So this whole notion, and what's the lost money? That's not what Zelensky said. He said, well, we have gotten, I think, some 70% of it already, and the rest of it is tied up in maybe munitions, artillery, and things yet, equipment that have yet to be sent. So when he said it's lost, it didn't say the money was lost, it says it hasn't been received. It's just a fact. So the implication by this, Trump is hinting at, is that Zelensky is padding his pockets with the money the U.S. is giving them. Unbelievable. He should be crucified just for that. A lot of people talk about Zelensky's corruption. He's a millionaire. He has several $million. Putin is the second wealthiest man on the planet. His Black Sea residence, which was recently raised, was valued at about $1.3 billion with this underground tunnel, its hoopah lounge where you had strippers dancing. He had a theater inside, all sorts of things all sorts of amenities you could not imagine. He's got some 20 residences, private helicopters and jets, and all at the expense of the Russian people, right? This is the man we should worship, we want to be like. Well, of course, Trump is a lot like that. He doesn't give a flying shit about the American people. He's interested in his cronies and his wealthy buddies, right? And getting all the facts, twisting it, dumping on Zelensky, because Zelensky with him, Ukrainian assets. They are carving up Ukraine, right? In the same way Germany was carved up after World War II, in the same way the hetmanate was carved up in the 17th century when they had the two treaties between Poland, Lithuania, and Russia. He's interested in carving up with Putin Ukraine's resources and getting them. Is he going to be complicit in complicity with Putin here? Why is this talk secret? Or are they antagonistic? Are they going to be fighting for Ukraine's resources? No question. Since Zelensky brought to Trump's attention that Ukraine has trillions of dollars of valuable minerals in its land, Trump's eyes lit up. Money for America. Let's bleed this country. Let's do what we can. We've promised and pledged 177 billion. Let's have them sign for 500 billion, a half a trillion dollars. He's not interested in rebuilding the welfare of Ukraine. Fuck that. This guy's interested in screwing Ukrainians, in monopolizing. I had thought long time ago that Trump might be using the Greenland, Panama Canal, and all this rhetoric about making Canada the 51st state as sort of rhetoric to be used as leverage in negotiations against Putin, making him seem like he's just an arbitrary thinker, a discretionary politician who's crazy enough to do anything at any moment. So fear me. I don't think that anymore. I used to trust Trump. I don't. I think he's a money-grubbing, land-grubbing person interested in another American empire, interested in a Russian empire and a Chinese empire. I hope I'm wrong about that. I don't think so. Finally, he mentions in the interview, and please watch this interview. I don't have the video thread here. I like him, about Zelensky. He's fine. But I don't care about personally. I care about getting the job done. You have leadership now that's allowed the war to go on that should have never happened. Now, should have never happened. How? Well, Trump only said it 10,000 times. Our president never would have happened. How the hell do we know that? It's a counterfactual situation. Assume that it's true. When Trump's not president, Putin goes in and attacks Ukraine. Okay? Now he says, I don't care about him personally. Watch his facial expressions while he's saying that. His smoke is coming out from the back of his neck. I want to get the job done. This is a frightening, frightening person this Donald Trump. And people are starting to mobilize and protest. They did en masse on President's Day. Republicans in the Congress are starting to turn on him ever slowly. This needs to be done rather quickly before it turns into a full-fledged, irreversible dictatorship. I don't think the American people will allow that. I think they're a little bit too smart to allow this to go on too much longer. When push comes to shove, I've said this to friends that he will be going down as one of the worst American presidents, and I was corrected on each instance by my friends. No, he will go down as being the worst president in American history. I, too, am convinced of that. Thank you for listening, and please like and share this. It's important that this information gets out to other people, that it's shared, that people think that we have American voters not just repeating what Trump says. Slogans. They have those in Russia. They have those in their textbooks. They rewrite history, right? Their current history textbooks talk about how Ukrainians started. Ukrainians were acting genocidally against the Russians in the Donbass. So Russians had to come in to poor Russians who were being exterminated by Ukrainian Nazis. Of course, he doesn't mention that. I think it was 83% of Luhansk and Donetsk voted for independence when Ukraine asked its oblasts to vote for independence. Doesn't mention that. It was Russian when Putin speaks, and now it's the same with Trump. It's the opposite of what he says. When it's Ukrainian neo-Nazis, it's the Russians spreading their propaganda throughout Ukraine. They spread their propaganda throughout the United States as well. Now it's being iterated through the gospel of Donald Trump. And please, I'm not doing this for my own benefit, but please like this and please share this. It's important that we think. It's important that you respond, that you agree or disagree. Say something. Don't just sit there zombified. As I said before, TTFN, and I will do another video shortly. Thank you very much and enjoy the rest of the day.